Well, what is going to happen next with Mr. Chad Daybell, the man who has now said, you know what? It was all Lori. She made me do it. But I'm not going to say it because that would imply I committed murder, but I wouldn't do anything without her telling me. That's kind of the argument that he's making of my wife told me to do it, so please don't kill me. Kill her instead.
But what man doesn't have to listen to his wife? I mean, come on, this is a husband-wife situation, right?
I don't know that killing your children is ever a husband-wife situation. But well, I guess in this case it was.
It's the happy wife, happy life thing. I mean, just freaking listen to your wife. If she wants you to do something, you do it. It's a honey-do list. We all know this.
So this is will a jury buy that? Will the state buy that? Go, oh, of course. It was a honey-do list. Now that you say it that way, you killed the kids. It was part of a honey-do list. What were we thinking?
Well, there might be a couple of people on the jury who go, well, I kind of get the wife aspect of it, but it was still wrong.
Without a doubt, prosecutors in this case are urging the judge now to move the trial from Ada County back to eastern Idaho due to extensive media coverage and potential challenges in selecting an impartial jury. Of course, Chad Daybell faces multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder in connection with the deaths of 7-year-old Joshua J.J. Vallow, 16-year-old Tylee Ryan, and his first wife, Tammy Daybell. Trial scheduled April 1st, but concerns about the influence of media coverage on the jury selection have prompted prosecutors to seek a change of venue. There's legitimacy to this argument when you think about it. If you're in the town where the actual crime took place, a lot of people are going to know about it well beyond just the world of true crime followers.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you move it 100 miles away, somewhere where it's not in the town, it's not where everybody could relate or like somebody knew somebody, because I can guarantee that's what's going on in that town. It's like, oh, I knew Lori or I knew Chad, or everybody has some sort of story to tell of their relation to them. You move it further away, those who are not so into true crime don't necessarily have those sort of connections. So, yeah, it does create more of, or less of a partial jury, more of an impartial jury if you move it further away. So I get the argument on something that is this much of a media sensation, if you will. The motion was filed on Wednesday. Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney Lindsey Blake of Madison County Prosecuting Attorney Rob Wood argued that local media and community participation in Ada County itself was pervasive and extensive, making it difficult to secure an impartial jury. They emphasized that Chad Daybell's property, where all 3 victims' bodies were discovered, is situated in Fremont County. Therefore, they contend that a fair and unbiased jury can be found there, especially since Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, Chad's co-defendant, took place in Ada County as well. The extensive media coverage during Lori's trial and the potential influence it may have on jurors in Ada County are significant concerns. Prosecutors also referenced the role of East Idaho News, highlighting its national and international reach and its impact on coverage of the case. I think they do a wonderful job over there. That's something where there's shitty local coverage in a lot of aspects in terms of traditional newspaper and such. What he has going over there as an independent reporter is a wonderful thing. And it's an example, I think, for other places of the country where local news media are essentially non-existent and you don't have anybody holding powers that be to account. He has a formula of basic, I don't know how many people he has employed, but it seems to be a lot of him, of being able to do that well, and he does it well. So I'm sorry, just had to.
No, you're 100% right. I've seen a lot of his stuff, and it's just top notch. It's properly vetted. It's reliable. It's and interesting too, and appears to be accurate. So that's something that sometimes we've missed in media these days. So it's really refreshing to see that.
I think we're in media deserts in a lot of areas of the country these days where it just doesn't exist anymore. The local paper doesn't exist, or if it does, it's just some spin-off of Gannett, and it's, USA Today with a different title, basically. And then you have local radio that doesn't really have staff anymore, or news departments. You have local TV that, if it has a news department, is basically being run by people who just graduated college. because there's no veteran reporters in most places anymore because they cost money. And what that creates is a lack of accountability for authorities, for governments, for all sorts of things. So anyway, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I think that is actually a huge factor in so many of these communities, especially we're talking about like Delphi, when we're talking about South Carolina's Low Country. If there's no one there to hold anybody accountable, nobody's going to be accountable. And I think what he's doing is very good. Anyway, to address these concerns, prosecutors have asked the judge, District Judge Stephen Boyce, to either relocate the trial back to the Fremont County area or consider a venue that's closer, less saturated, and less expensive. In a separate motion, prosecutors renewed their objection to allowing cameras in the courtroom during Chad Daybell's trial. Well, John Pryor, Daybell's defense attorney, has advocated for a public trial. Prosecutors expressed worries about the prejudicial pretrial publicity that cameras might generate. I don't know. I'm wondering in general here if we're ever going to get to an actual Chad Daybell trial, considering their motion right now is basically, like I said, stating she made me do it. He's going to argue in court that he's innocent. He's pled not guilty to these crimes. So if the state decides to make a deal with him, it's done. It's over. He's not going to go to trial. He'll likely have the death penalty removed, and he'll be in a box the rest of his life. I think that's actually kind of a likelihood here in this case because it will save them a ton of money. And, you know, as much of a spectacle as this is and would be interesting to watch, do we need it? I mean, do we really need it? Does anyone really need it? Does it serve any sort of purpose?
I don't think it does. It's going to create so much havoc. It's going to rip the scab off of any survivors, of these two. It's just, is it really necessary? We know that they did it. Let's just do some stuff behind the scenes and get it done.
I feel that way. And I also wonder, do we need to do it with Lori in Arizona as well? Certainly if you're it's hard to say, because if I was the family of Charles Vallow, I'd want to see her basically in that courtroom. But my goal, I think, in my mind of what I would want as a human being would be to see her feel what's being thrown at her.
Yeah.
And the reality is she's not capable of doing that. So as much as we'd like to sit there and stab the witch, if you're sitting there literally stabbing the witch and the witch is like, I don't feel anything, does that bring you any sort of closure? Does that bring you any sort of, respite from this horrible, horrible situation? I mean, justice would be those children living.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's a hard question to answer when you're not the one that is so close to it with the family that's involved.
Yeah, it's, and think of the cost for these communities too. I mean, these people have cost some lives, and now they're going to cost the taxpayers just a ton of money. Mm-hmm. Let's just get it over with. Let's just be done.
I agree. Let's let him plea. Let's let him rot in a box for the rest of his life. Call it a day,
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.